Michael Jackson never had a childhood. While other kids played outside, he rehearsed until his feet bled. While they dreamed of toys, he dreamed of perfection. His father's belt taught him rhythm before any metronome could. By age 11, he was already a star, but inside, he remained frozen at 5 years old. That's where the tragedy began. Fame stole his innocence before he understood what innocence meant. He became the breadwinner, the hope, the golden child who carried an entire family's dreams on shoulders too small for such weight. The stage lights were his son. The screaming crowds were his only friends. He learned to dance before he learned to be a boy. Years later, when he built Neverland Ranch, people called it strange. They saw a grown man with carnival rides and a zoo. But Michael saw something else entirely. He saw the childhood he never lived. Every Ferris wheel represented a birthday party he missed. Every arcade game stood for the fun stolen from him. He filled that ranch with children's laughter because his own childhood had been silent except for music and demands. The world watched him moonwalk backward through life, but nobody understood he was trying to walk forward into a past he never experienced. His high voice, his gentle manner, his obsession with Peter Pan, these weren't affectations. They were survival mechanisms. He clung to innocence because it was ripped from him before he could taste it. The cruel irony was still forming. The very thing he cherished most would become the weapon used to destroy him. His love for children, pure and desperate, would be twisted into something dark by a world that couldn't understand why a man would want to be a child again. Neverland wasn't just a home. It was a manifesto written in cotton candy and roller coasters. Michael created a world where childhood never ended because his own had ended before it began. He invited children there, sick kids, poor kids, any kid who needed magic. He gave them everything he never had: freedom, joy, wonder. To him, these weren't just visits. They were rescue missions. He saw himself in every child's eyes, and for brief moments, he could save the boy he used to be by saving them. The parents were grateful at first. Their children met a living legend, rode elephants, ate candy for breakfast. Michael asked for nothing except their happiness. He watched them play with an intensity that unsettled some adults. They didn't understand that he wasn't watching them, he was watching the childhood he'd lost, trying to memorize what it looked like so he could finally own it. But the world grew suspicious. Why would a rich, famous man want to spend time with children? The question poisoned everything it touched. What Michael saw as innocence, others saw as impossibility. Society had rules, adults and children occupied different worlds, and crossing that line meant danger. Michael never learned those rules because he never fit into either category. He existed in between, belonging nowhere. The media began to whisper. Then the whispers became headlines. By 1993, the first accusation arrived like a knife in the dark. A 13-year-old boy claimed Michael had touched him inappropriately. The case was civil, not criminal. Michael's lawyers advised him to settle, to make it disappear with money. He paid over $20 million, and in doing so, he bought silence but also guilt in the public's eyes. Innocent people don't pay, they said. But traumatized people do. Exhausted people do. People who can't bear to relive their pain in a courtroom circus do. 10 years passed. Michael's skin grew lighter from vitiligo, his face changed from surgery seeking the perfection his father demanded. He married, had children, divorced. He kept making music, but the magic was fading. Then in 2003, another accusation emerged. This time, there would be no settlement. This time, there would be a trial. The world tuned in like it was entertainment. Court TV showed every moment. Comedians made jokes. People who'd never met Michael Jackson decided his guilt before a single witness testified. The prosecution painted him as a predator who used his fame to lure victims. They brought forward the accuser, a cancer survivor Michael had befriended, and his family with their story of abuse. But the defense revealed cracks in that story. The mother had a history of fraud, the timeline didn't match, the accusations changed. Witnesses who worked at Neverland testified they never saw anything inappropriate. The boy's own brother admitted under oath that nothing happened, then changed his story. 4 months, Michael sat in that courtroom, watching his life dissected. He lost weight until his clothes hung off him like curtains. His eyes, once bright with mischief, dulled into something hollow. Each day, he walked through crowds of cameras, still dancing that strange dance between dignity and collapse. The jurors saw everything. They heard the prosecution's passion and the defense's evidence. After deliberating, they returned with their verdict, not guilty on all 14 counts. Michael was free. But freedom is a complicated word. The trial had taken something from him that no verdict could return. his reputation was destroyed. Half the world still believed he was guilty, because suspicion is easier than understanding. Winning the trial felt like losing everything. Michael left California and barely returned. He wandered between Bahrain and Ireland, countries where people might not recognize the ghost he'd become. Neverland, his sanctuary, was closed. He couldn't bear to see it anymore. Every ride, every tree reminded him of innocence that had curdled into accusation. The ranch that represented his healing had become the crime scene in a trial that nearly killed him. Financial troubles mounted. Legal fees had drained his fortune. The music industry, once his kingdom, had moved on. Pop stars came and went, but Michael remained frozen in the public mind, not as the king of pop, but as the man accused. Every comeback attempt was shadowed by the past. Every interview became an interrogation. His children became his only joy. Prince, Paris, and Blanket gave him purpose when everything else felt hollow. He covered their faces in public, desperate to give them the privacy he never had. He was determined they would have a childhood, even if building it required his complete isolation. But isolation breeds desperation. Michael needed to perform again, not for the money, but for the validation. On stage, he was still loved. On stage, the accusations disappeared into the music. When the opportunity came for a comeback concert series in London, he took it. This Is It would be his resurrection, 50 shows proving he was still the greatest entertainer alive. The rehearsals were intense. At 50 years old, his body couldn't do what it once did effortlessly. He needed help sleeping after the adrenaline of practice. He needed help with pain. He needed help with anxiety. His personal physician, Conrad Murray, provided that help in the form of propofol, a surgical anesthetic never meant for home use. It was reckless. It was dangerous. But Michael was beyond caution. He was beyond everything except the desperate need to be Michael Jackson one more time. June 25, 2009. The day the world stood still. Michael Jackson was found unresponsive in his bedroom. Conrad Murray had given him propofol to sleep and then left him unmonitored. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, it was too late. Paramedics tried to revive him. Doctors at UCLA Medical Center fought for his life. But the king of pop was gone at age 50. The news spread like wildfire. People who'd mocked him days before suddenly grieved. Millions who'd believed the accusations now remembered only the music. The world that had crucified him rushed to canonize him. His memorial service was watched by billions. His music shot back to the top of every chart. In death, Michael finally received the love that had eluded him in life. But here's the haunting truth. Michael Jackson died searching for the one thing fame couldn't give him, innocence. He'd spent his entire life trying to reclaim it, protect it, live inside it. That search made him vulnerable to accusations that destroyed his legacy. The very quality that made his art so pure, his childlike wonder, became the evidence used against him in the court of public opinion. Was he guilty? The jury said no. But the world remains divided, because we struggle to understand how a man can love childhood without darker motives. We've lost the ability to see innocence as anything but naive or dangerous. Michael's greatest curse wasn't the accusations themselves. It was living in a world that couldn't believe innocence still existed. He died alone, still reaching for the childhood he never had, surrounded by medicine meant to give him peace but instead giving him silence. The music stopped, but the questions never will. Perhaps that's his final legacy, not answers, but the uncomfortable mirror he holds up to a society that can't distinguish between purity and suspicion anymore.